Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Changers Podcast. My name is Shelley Smith, founder of Premier Rapport, and your liaison not only with the Chamber for and through the Peninsula SHRM chapter. Bob, over to you.
What's this podcast called again, Shelley?
You know what? It's called...
It's been such a long time.
I know. It's called the, not the Biz Connection. Isn't that terrible that we don't
Biz
know?
Buzz.
Biz Buzz.
Peninsula Biz Buzz.
There we go. I knew it was PBB, but I'm like, what did that thing stand?
Peanut butter and business or something. so it's been actually over a month. We took a little time off over Christmas, and then January started with a bang, and we just wrapped up the 47 days of January a couple days ago, and now we're into February, and we're going to record several this week. So
yeah.
So we're back. Peninsula Biz Buzz is back. I think this is number 8. And today we have with us Tim Ryan from StartWHEEL. So let's get right into it, Tim.
Awesome.
Tim and I met probably about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, at a Rotary. And Tim's one of the guys that people kept saying to me, "You got to meet Tim Ryan. You got to meet Tim Ryan. He's up at Launchpad." And we finally met by chance at a Rotary meeting, and then since then we've met several times. But now is the time, and I'm at the 2-year point in my chamber president position. That I really have to start building more than just building shallow relationships, but building deep relationships. Tim and I just met the other day to talk about how we're going to do that, and now I would like to, and that's about a month ago. I said to Tim, "Hey, we need to do one of these podcasts." But Tim's now at StartWHEEL. He's no longer at Launchpad. And Tim, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about StartWHEEL to begin with, and then just move right into giving us your street credentials, why you're there at StartWHEEL. So go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah, StartWHEEL, it's a place where we consolidate and coordinate the entrepreneurial efforts that are taking place across Hampton Roads. And that can span from Williamsburg to Virginia Beach, and sometimes even much further than that. What started out before is small pockets of different activities that would take place, really is expanded to there's multiple events that are taking place oftentimes at the same time, and all across our region. So that was the need. The need was a single place where people could go and look to see what was happening. How do I get started? Where's the best use of my time? And so we have a consolidated calendar where people can go and see what events that are taking place so that they can plan their days. It's also a place where we can share and celebrate the different news stories that are taking place for the different early stage startups and small businesses around our region. And I guess my street cred, as you put it, is I've been involved with the entrepreneurial community across Hampton Roads for quite some time now, going over 8 years, and it's just continued to grow and grow and grow. I started my own business. It'll be 8 years in April, and the whole idea was to help those small businesses, early stage startups, prevent them from having the best business or service that no one has ever heard of. And because I understood what the pain points were that those businesses faced, that's when I started, or I was asked to start the Launchpad, which was the business incubator for Greater Williamsburg. During that time, I was also one of the co-founders for Start Peninsula, which is we just had our 7th year, where it's a platform for businesses to pitch their business and validate their idea, so they know if it's worth pursuing. And it is just build upon that. And most recently, taking over the role as the executive director for StartWHEEL.
Tim, how have you managed to coordinate? Because that's a lot, especially in the entrepreneurial world. How have you managed to coordinate, even like you mentioned, going on your website with the calendar of events that are scrolling at the bottom? How have you pulled that together, and maybe some of the best practices or people or locations to actually network if you're in this market and you're trying to be here, to stay here, to start your business here? How do we do that? You clearly have done that.
Well, I do give a lot of credit to my predecessor, Chris Shelton, who did a lot of the legwork. I was a board member for StartWHEEL before I had assumed the position. But so we make it really easy, where you can submit an event that would like to be featured on our calendar, or you can also input your own events into the calendar. And we also have different tools to automate that process so that we can search across things like meetup.com, and we can import those different events. But if you are a subscriber to the website where you have an account, then you can automatically push those events that you have, and they'll show up on our calendar automatically.
Beautiful. Bob, over to you.
So Tim, we talked the other day about the mission, and we also talked about some partners that you have in trying to carry out your mission. Can you talk about who your partners are, and maybe why they're your partners, and who else you need on board?
Sure. I mean, the big thing really is it's a regional effort, and it's all about attracting and retaining the talent that we have. We have amazing universities and colleges in the area, great businesses, and we understand that in order to keep that talent, along with the different military and DoD that we have, that we have to really showcase what we have to offer in this area. And we have done so well in terms of Kauffman Foundation rankings, how our area does with entrepreneurship. So one of our main partners is Ferguson Ventures, which is an arm of Ferguson Enterprises, headquartered in Newport News. And they understand that very well, that if they want to continue to have their headquarters and presence in Newport News, then they need to give back to the community. And they have really stepped up to be great players in the area. And not only for name recognition for them, but also they have a funding arm that they are actively looking for businesses and startups to potentially invest in. And that's an example from a business standpoint, but also from a university standpoint. It's a great partnership when we can work with different universities like an Old Dominion or a William and Mary, so that we can have students interact with real world challenges or exercises with a startup company, as opposed to a case study that may be dated. So it's really a benefit for both, because the businesses love to have access to students that have new and fresh ideas or an innovative way to handle a problem that, quite frankly, those business founders may not have the answers how to solve the challenges that they're facing.
Shelley.
I was just going to say I think the viewers would understand more the retention piece and the attraction from the employee. But the first piece of the relationship that you have with Ferguson, for example, I mean, they're clearly already a very large corporation. What benefit could you tell the other companies that are maybe not as large as Ferguson, but are certainly, housed here? Why would they want to become a part of this? What is their benefit?
Well, and a lot of it is, even if it was a strategic standpoint in terms of name recognition, for acquisition and hiring within the talent pool of the companies that are around the area. There's it's a great way to get your name out there, so that when it comes to hiring quality people, or those people that have the talent or education that they're looking for, that there is that name recognition, there's that relationship piece that has already started. And that is what we have found that a lot of businesses are looking for, because one of the biggest challenges that they have is finding the quality and the talent pool of people that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Just wanted to hear you say it.
Sure.
Sometimes people can't make the connection, so it's
right.
Good to shout it out. Bob?
So Tim, you said something earlier, and I had not heard you use this phrase before, but you said pain points. You know some of the pain points. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about pain points and tell us what some of them are and what you can do to help remedy those?
Sure. I mean, some of the biggest pain point that a lot of the small businesses have is really from a marketing aspect. It's how do they get their name out there, and how do they get eyeballs on the product or services they're offering. And that's one of the things that StartWheel is able to solve. So if a new company if they have a new milestone that they just accomplished, or if they have news or a press release that they want to push out, then StartWheel is a place that they can certainly send it to, and we will feature that on our website, push it out on our social media as well as our newsletters. And we've been actively growing our audience since our inception a couple of years ago, and so that's one thing that we solve. And the other part, what I touched on before, is the fact that there's so many different events that are taking place, and it's neat to see that our area, we work very well together in terms of cooperation, but we have to ensure that we are not competing against the people that are attending these different events. And so if we can build some density, meaning that during the class or the event that's taking place, chances are it's a great event, but if it can be a well-attended event, the other part of the magic that happens is the relationships that are built at those different events, the conversations that take place. I mean, Bob, you and I are here together because we met at an event, and the relationship started from there. So if we can do things smartly and build that density and establish those relationships and see where those relationships and partnerships lead, then that's another pain point that we solve so that we can start doing business with one another, which is a big part of what the Chamber does.
So it seems like everything I'm finding out these days, and I never considered this in my past careers, everything is about marketing. And so we used to actually criticize each other as naval officers on the same ship when one of us stayed a little bit later in the day so he could sit and talk with the captain or the XO, and they said, that guy just wants to get more face time. and whether that was the truth or not, that was the criticism. He just wants more face time. In the business that I'm in now, and that you're in, Tim, and that you're in, Shelley, FaceTime is critical, right? So increasing your brand is a key to a lot of things, all looking towards success.
100%. I mean, especially in today, I mean, the degrees of separation due to social media and LinkedIn, things like that. It's all about who knows one another, whether if it's you're selling a product or if it's a relationship for your next job. It's all about how you market yourself and how you market your company and the products and services that you offer.
So when we started this podcast, my first idea in starting this podcast was, I got to get Shelley Smith, because if you want to increase your brand, you got to have somebody who is a good moderator and who already has a brand. So I asked Shelley, and she said, yeah, let's do it. But and now, Tim, we're going to ask you to help us increase our brand by sharing this with your network too.
And that's how it all works, is to find those brand ambassadors and those influencers, and to continue to build upon that with one another, and it's where the magic happens.
Yeah. Shelley,
I
can tell you're itching to ask a question.
No, I was just it made me actually come back to my first book I wrote, which was called The Connection. And people originally, when they heard it, they thought, oh, it's a how to network book. And I was like, no. I mean, yeah, there's one chapter on networking, but it's about the connectivity that is around us every single day, every single opportunity that we have to have a conversation, to deepen the relationship, to level one another up, is really, at the end of the day, what we're supposed to be doing as humans. And so it actually took me back to that. So I think a question that, for those that are not familiar with your website, I'll say where the calendar is, are there some things that are top of mind, Tim, that are coming up that, again, the listeners, you can kind of dribble a little bit on us with maybe some must-attend events that they can get fit into the calendar?
Well, and one of the things that we're working on is, and what a lot of people are looking for is, this seems to be a highway, so to speak, as you start your entrepreneurial journey, and how do I enter that highway? So there's different points. Every business is in a different place. So, for example, if someone is just starting their business or they just have that idea, they want to kick the tires a little bit to see if it's something they want to pursue, then I would recommend going to something like a 1 Million Cups or a coffee type of meetup, so that you can hear different entrepreneurs share their story. You can meet different people. It's a very low threat kind of setting. And if you have started, then I would recommend that's where the first place that you would present your business, and then gradually increase the size of the audience. Maybe your next step is an event called 757 Pitch, where you're now pitching in front of a group of judges, and the winner will walk away with $757. And then we have events like Start Peninsula. And the whole idea of Start Peninsula, as I mentioned before, is to validate that business idea. So now that you know that you have some validation, the judges that are in the that we have are people that write checks that are investing in companies. So now you know that you have something worth pursuing. And then the way that we have structured this and how the ecosystem comes together, then you apply to something like a 757 Accelerate. And then you go through an accelerator, which is a 12-week program that is offered here locally, with the idea that once you complete the accelerator, that now you're an investable company. So this is part of the coordination and the consolidation, so that people can understand what the pathway is or what that roadmap is for starting and succeeding in business. But other things, the different colleges and universities, they have many different events where you can just go and learn. And it's one of the surprising things about there's always a dozen people that you can think of that should attend these different learning events. And learning is lifelong. And even if you're not there to refresh your memory, you can walk away with learning something. And a lot of these events are free to attend, but we make sure that we have a description of all the different types of events. And each week we push out something that are the events of the week that's something that is special, or something that maybe someone should pay attention to. But the big thing is just to get started and attend, start talking to people, and growing your network.
Absolutely.
All right, Tim. So there's a lot of people that are working in this arena, right? This entrepreneurship, innovation kind of arena, and it's one of the keys to success in a metropolitan statistical area. And right now we are lagging. The Hampton Roads area is lagging behind just about everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, so people like Monique Adams and Evans McMillian, and you mentioned Ferguson's, the Blake Luce, you working very hard to make this work. What's missing? What do you guys need? How can the chamber help? How can the community help? How can business roundtables, for instance, help? Well, they already are, but what can we do more?
Sure. Well, the big thing is, I would say that there's two things. The first thing would be, a lot of people or a lot of different organizations, they would like to go out and they want to start their own thing. They may think that there is a gap that needs to be filled someplace. But before you go ahead and you start, look to see who else might be doing it. And quite frankly, that other group or organization may be able to do it a lot better than what you're capable of doing it. So partner with them, share your audience, create that density. Nothing gathers a crowd like a crowd type of mentality, and see what you can do in conjunction with other people, as opposed to starting your own event. Because the other thing it does is it adds a lot of confusion in terms of from an entrepreneurial standpoint, which one do I go to? Which event's going to be the biggest, best bang for my buck? And then the other aspect is, quite honestly, I mean, we're a nonprofit, a 501c3. Everybody sees the need for what it is that we're doing within StartWheel, and we do need that corporate financial support. We work really, really hard to make sure that anybody that supports StartWheel is going to get a return on their investment. I want to make sure that we are not an organization that's just looking for a handout, that we truly want to understand what is it that you see in your mind that is going to provide that return or the value for your support, and we will work extremely hard to make sure that we provide that return. And we'll go from there. But those are the things that we're specifically looking for, because it's all about the entrepreneurs and businesses succeeding. We will measure our success based on how well this area does and how well the businesses do.
So compare us to, say, the Raleigh-Durham area, the Research Triangle there. It seems like over the past 25 years, they've been very successful at just what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, well, they've got Duke and NC State, North Carolina, they get a lot of research dollars. We get a lot of research dollars here too, right? NASA, Jefferson Lab, we've got universities. So is that capital investment maybe the thing that can help put us over the top, or is it attracting and retaining more talent here? Is that, that's something I know you're working on, but is that the key?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about how well we work with one another and how we coordinate with one another. And what I see so much of is, I think that we can leverage other communities that are successful, but we also have to have the mindset that our makeup is very different as well, and that we can have the recipe for a particular item, but just because we have the recipe doesn't mean that we're going to have the same outcome. And
right.
We have to treat our area in a way that's going to provide the success that we're looking for. So I think it's great to look at the lessons learned and how other organizations or localities, MSAs have done things, but we have to still customize it in a way that is going to work best for us. And we need to leverage one another and understand that a rising tide lifts all boats kind of mentality, so that everybody wins. And that's the other aspect of what StartWheel does, is that we have that give before you get type of mentality, and that everybody will win when we have that mentality.
That's great. Shelley.
I was just going to circle back around with a couple of points to kind of reiterate, Tim, what I heard you say, again, for the audience to make sure. Number one, I heard you really articulate kind of where are you in the entrepreneurial sphere from a startup. So how to get involved. Those are things that they can find on your website. I thought that was great how you laid out where you are to your barrier of entry. The other thing I heard you say was how to get involved. So it sounds like the best course would be if I'm inside of an organization listening and it's like, gosh, I think that we need to get involved. Maybe we can or can't do the magnitude of what a Ferguson is doing, but we can certainly do something. So I heard you say, don't reinvent the wheel, reach out to you, say, how can I get involved? So maybe there's an event that they're thinking of and they may see it on the calendar. So instead of recreating the event, jump in and say, hey, how do we get involved? And
right.
So is that correct on a couple
That's
of
right.
starting points?
And it could be something even as small as, hey, we would like to host an event.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of needs that everybody has is looking to fulfill. And so, yeah, definitely reach out and contact me. And that's the other big piece of what I do is introducing people to the other right people and connecting the dots and making things happen that way.
Well, we also want to hear, because you've talked about, attracting and keeping the talent. Bob is definitely on a mission to do that. A lot of his events are definitely circled around that. So I want to make sure everybody who's listening, if you do not have it on your calendar purview, is that at Gather on June the 18th over lunchtime, we're actually doing an event that is the series that is around attracting and keeping the talent. So we would make sure that connection is happening for people that are listening as well. So Tim, do you have any final comments that you want to make sure that maybe something we didn't ask you that you're really hoping that we would ask?
No, I mean, I would reiterate, our website is startwheel.org. The big thing is to reach out and connect with me. I love the entrepreneurial mindset, and that is give before you get. That mentality is just amazing, and you'd be surprised how willing other entrepreneurs are to help as long as you ask. But you just have to show that vulnerable side and ask the question and get involved, and you'll be amazed at what comes next.
Bob.
Okay, last question.
Yes.
Tell me what you think about our new brand, the 757. It sounds like it's already being used in the entrepreneur world for a while, right?
I mean, well, and I think that I am embracing it. And again, I think that it comes down to however you can leverage the marketing aspect and get the eyeballs that you're looking for. I mean, we have to start somewhere. We've been going round and round about what we call ourselves for so long, and it's one of those things that we all just have to jump on board, like it or not. Jump on board and start something, and continue to contribute to it, and the rest will play out from there.
Hey,
and you know,
the younger
what I tell
generation
people is, yeah, so we're still Hampton Roads, we're still coastal Virginia, we're still Tidewater, and it depends on your perspective really and your intent, right? So if you're trying to attract tourists, you may want to say coastal Virginia. If you're talking to a sailor coming here on orders, you're going to say Hampton Roads because that's what the Navy's always known. And if you're much older than I am, you're calling it Tidewater, or if you're like a poet. But the brand is 757, so get on board. And oh, by the way, most of the people complaining are not the target audience. So people my age and up, we're not the target audience.
And I think that as long as you can continue to express the fact that we're not changing the name of the place, it is purely the brand, then I think that a lot of people will become more understanding.
Yep.
Exactly. It's all about marketing.
Yep.
It is. And I will echo, the generation that we are trying to attract and keep already calls it the 757.
Exactly.
They have for years. So that's why they're kind of laughing at some of us old folks. What? We've always called it that.
Right.
So, all right. I thank you very much for tuning in today. Again, my name is Shelley Smith. We certainly appreciate you being here live with us today, Tim. Bob, any final comments?
None. That was great.
All right, y'all.
Thanks,
Have
Shelley.
a
Thanks,
great
Bob.
afternoon.
Thanks to both of you. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.